Gorman in the morning with Fletcher.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
What?
After 2 days off,
Yeah.
on the third day, we have risen.
Oh, wow. I see what you did there. And Ryder.
I'm ready to play.
Yeah,
Man,
me and Ant, ready to play.
glad to
show
hear
number
that.
13.
What's that?
We are on show number 13.
Show number 13.
Gorman in the morning. We are teenagers.
Our own ant woman right there at the
Yeah.
board. I appreciate that. It's a Monday morning. It is April the 21st. And I trust everybody had a wonderful weekend. I'm sure we'll get into the various things we did over the last few days since we were last all together. But right now, let's focus on the here and now. I'm feeling Minnesota. Paul, what's happening?
The University of Minnesota dance team won its 23rd national championship in January. Now,
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it gets better.
Okay.
They've been selected to represent Team USA at the ICU International World Championships.
Okay.
It's a rare opportunity for the Gopher dance team to dance as the U.S. national team. This is the third time in program history that they've had a chance to do this. The last being 2014.
These are the ones who went viral with that Aerosmith dance, right?
Yeah, I believe
nice.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty unbelievable. Not such good news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church for the last 12 years, has passed. He passed just hours ago, actually, at the age of 88. Exact cause of death hasn't been announced yet, but if you remember, he was hospitalized in February with respiratory crisis, they called it, and he suffered from chronic lung disease as well. So
Peripherally raised Catholic, raised very Catholic, not what you would call a practicing Catholic anymore, but certainly pay attention to these sort of things. Francis always struck me as the kind of man who read and cared about the words in red ink in the King James Bible. That would be the words of Jesus himself. Good guy, by all accounts.
That's what I was just going to say.
And this is me growing up in like I said, a very, very, very Catholic household, at times being very cynical about the church, and then this guy showed up and I was like, you know what? That dude means it. He's walking it like he's talking it. An advocate for the poor and for a lot of those who don't have that much in the world. So rest easy, sir. Good job.
yeah, as we say in many other spectrums of life, he's one of the good ones.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
seemed to be.
And a rarity too. Out of the Buenos Aires is where he came from.
First ever South American Pope.
Absolutely. A Bob Dylan superfan from Ohio attended his 128th Bob Dylan concert over the weekend.
Okay.
Catching his show in Youngstown, Ohio on Saturday night. His name's Colonel Bogdan. He first saw Dylan in 1977 when he was 14. His favorite show was Madison Square Garden in 1992.
128.
Jeez,
yeah.
that's a
And
lot.
his favorite show is 92. I saw Dylan in the early 90s sometimes, and those shows were very hit and miss. So they got lucky with that one at the Garden, I can tell you that.
I've been at some Pearl Jam Geek Fests where
Yeah, sure.
they did their PJ20 a few years back and stood in line talking to people.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, this is my 75th show. This is my 55th.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by those people because I'm nowhere near that. 128 is insane, man.
Fun fact, two identical twin sisters were big fans of my former little rock and roll combo, the Black Crowes.
Okay.
And on either 2010 or 2013, 13 was my last tour, so it was either that one or the one before, they would always be right up front, and they would just be happy. And we saw them all the time, talked to them anytime we saw them.
Nice.
They just both were holding a piece of paper. 500.
Wow.
I'm not
What?
making that up. That was their 500th show.
That's so much commitment.
They're
what
not
other
alone.
life did they have? I wonder.
I don't want to know. I just was all I thought was,
I'm
thanks.
Shocked. I'm shocked that you made it to 500
No
shows.
kidding. Like, man.
When you're on stage and you see something like that, do you kind of give you the heebie-jeebies, or is it just really cool that somebody's there that many times?
It really doesn't do anything at the time. Later, I'll be like, holy crap. But I mean, unless you throw something and hit me physically with a bottle or a coin,
Right.
not much happening in front of me is going to really get in. It's going to hit the radar and bounce right off during the gig.
Understood. Last week, Red Robin announced that they were selling bottomless burger passes, which would get a burger and a bottomless side every day of the month of May for $20 total.
Every day, 31 burgers and bottomless sides for $20.
Correct.
Wow, it might make me get into a Red Robin.
Well, they sold out immediately.
I bet.
Even had a website crash. One person said, quote, "It was literally easier to get tickets to Taylor Swift than it is to get a Red Robin burger pass."
Okay.
Red Robin never said how many of the passes they were selling, only that there were a limited number and they would go quickly. That was their words. I'm always a marketing conspiracy theorist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, drums up, and here we are talking about it. If they would just released the pass,
Sure.
offered up plenty of them, I'm telling you, the Orchestrate website crashes. Like, all of this
and if I had one of those, I'd be orchestrating all my friends to come in and get on that bottomless app. Trust me. Just a rotating guest door seat at the table.
Those are pretty solid burgers, too, especially for a chain.
Absolutely. No question about
it.
it.
That's what I got.
There you go. How about some sports headlines here? You want to feel Minnesota? Get off on your bad self. Minnesota Timberwolves beat the living snot out of the Lakers in Game 1.
That's fun.
Okay, one thing to say, LeBron James notoriously starts slow in all playoff series. At every round, he's lost more Game 1s than he's won. I'm almost positive.
Wow.
He's certainly it's not unlike him to lose the first game. However, this was a comprehensive beatdown. The Timberwolves defense looked like what we saw a year ago, more or less, more so than what we saw this year. Anthony Edwards with a fine second half, 1 assist shy, 2 rebounds shy of a triple-double with 22 points, including a sweet 3 over Luka in his grill in the third.
Ant sidestep, thought about the pull-up 3 instead off to Nikhil. Right back to Ant. He'll line up the 3 ball and stroke it! Catch and shoot 3, Anthony Edwards. He's got 3 more, 22 for the game to go along with his 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
And had no problem pointing Luka out and just trash-talking him all night long. That was great. Jaden McDaniels, however, led the team with 25 points and 9 rebounds. When Jaden is on his game, this team is absolutely terrifying. 43 pointers taken. They hit half of them. And I'm not kidding. 27 or 28 of those were uncontested.
Wow.
The Lakers defense was atrocious.
Uncontested. That's good ball movement. Good offensive
good ball movement
execution,
and LeBron's 50 and Luka's lazy. That's what that is.
Did you see there was I saw a video on Instagram that was pretty awesome. It was just Anthony Edwards being anticipatory, jumped in, grabbed a ball, and all you see in the background is LeBron with his arms out looking for a call.
Sure,
I was just
always.
like, are you unbelievable.
Not so cool. The Wild last night dropped Game 1 to the Vegas Golden Knights, 4-2. I'll call it 3-2. I mean, there was a 1 second on the clock, empty netter. But my boy Matt Boldy, what did I say? We need him to show up. He had both goals for the Wild. I did not see the game. I'm not going to pretend I saw the game. It was a little past my bedtime. Just saw some highlights today. After the game, Hines said, look, both teams played hard, good defensive efforts, not a lot of special teams. He feels good moving forward. All the stuff you would expect him to say.
Yeah, you need to see, you're right. You need to have your big players be big in big games, but you also need depth. And we didn't have much depth scoring. I watched a condensed version before we got on the air here. I just think it's one of those things where they're outmatched. It's going to be a close series, but they're outmatched.
Final note, good news from the U.S. women's hockey team. They won the World Championships over in the Czech Republic Sunday with a 4-3 win over, wait for it, Canada! In your face. Tessa Janecki scored in overtime, set up by Taylor Heise.
Taylor Heise of your
of
your Minnesota Frost, baby.
Lake City native, Red Wing High, Gopher, and now member of the Frost. Nice job setting that up. And by the way, as the team celebrated, Freebird was blasting over the PA if you watch the highlights. They're in the Czech Republic. It's 2025. Not a player on that team was born within 20 years of the Skinnerd plane crash, but hey, God bless rock and roll, huh?
Right.
Let's rock it.
Freebird has kind of become a USA hockey thing.
Yeah.
The men did it as well.
It's hilarious.
So,
I mean, I'm just like, really? Okay, let's go with it.
Bizarre.
Oak Grove, glad to have you with us. Want to give a shout out this morning to Oak Grove, Minnesota.
It's Gorman in the Morning with Fletcher and Ryder, 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the Morning on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. I'm going to go ahead and speak for the group here. All three of us love rock and roll music, so we have that in common with Joan Jett. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, this is your last day to get in on the fan vote, should you choose to do so.
I've been plugging them in.
Fish with the Runaway. Yeah. I appreciate your efforts.
Who freaking likes? Why do so many people like Fish? And I feel like the people who do like Fish, that's the only band that they like.
Well, that's they are this generation's Grateful Dead for a lot of, or not this generation, the previous generation. They've been around long enough where they're no longer this generation.
Gen X.
Yeah. They are like that. Deadheads and fish heads. They're really into the dead and fish. Truly.
And that's about like. Ryder nailed it, and that's about all they like. They're not interested in moving past that.
But then again, I look at any band that's 40 years in doing everything their own way and still goes out and sells out every show they play. And, you know, nothing but respect. I am pleased and surprised that Bad Company is in second place on the fan vote. I mean, it's one of those bands where I'm like, why aren't they already in there? And then at least they're getting the love from obviously some older voters.
sure. Yeah.
The Black Crowes, my former rock and roll combo, still sitting behind Chubby Checker, but blissfully ahead of Mariah Carey. That's all I care about. I don't care if we get in. I just want to get more votes than Mariah.
Nice. Yeah,
that's it.
The
good to have goals.
The two on the list that are a bad company, like you said, and Chubby Checker, those two just boggle my mind. I'm not dogging either of them. I'm just saying it boggles my mind that they're there.
Because?
Chubby Checker's one song. It's
okay,
just,
but
it's
why does
crazy
Bad
to me.
Company boggle your mind?
Just that it seems like I didn't realize there'd be enough. I didn't think there'd be enough people that would be passionate enough to get it to where it's at. It's not. Yeah, it's not a critique on them or a criticism. It's more just I'm just surprised. That's all.
But they did. They did have.
They did okay.
They had that run, boy, and it's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm like, you know what? And if they get in, then that means Free kind of gets in too.
Yeah.
That's what I like as a free jerk, as I call it. I love that band.
And the Bad Company bands are very, very passionate about this rock and so it's the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Speaking of rock and roll, it's fun. Rock and roll bands are awesome. It's nothing more fun than being in a band until you realize it's absolute misery. You're in the band one day, you're out of the band the next day, you're back in the band one day. Oh, wait, am I talking about The Who? Of course I am.
Gorman in the morning.
Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. The Who, venerable, classic, iconic rock band from London, England. You may have at least a passing familiarity with their catalog.
Roughly.
The Who had a bit of a week, is the easiest way to say it. So the band played the Royal Albert Hall in London in March, and apparently the gig was awfully problematic, sound problems. Roger Daltrey blamed all of it on their drummer, Zach Starkey.
Oh.
And he decided we need to fire Zach from the band. Zach Starkey, his dad, his name is Ringo Starr. His uncle / godfather was a guy named Keith Moon.
Okay.
Keith Moon gave Zach Starkey his first drum kit, not Ringo. Keith Moon taught Zach Starkey how to play drums, not Ringo.
Really?
He is the person who's been playing in The Who since 1996. He's a sensational drummer and the only guy on God's green earth who could replace Keith Moon, honestly.
I was just going to say, it sounds like he was born for the job.
He was born for the job. Roger Daltrey, in a statement, said basically he was overplaying at the Royal Albert Hall. Overplaying.
What does that even mean?
Keith Moon played like a jackhammer falling down a flight of stairs. It's like you fire a squirrel because he's jumpy. You can't overplay. Anyway, the story blew up. Someone at Who HQ recognized this was a bit of a grease fire, and now the Who came out with a statement that Pete Townsend wrote and said, "No. We want to tighten this up. It's a situation that needed to be dealt with." And he said, we didn't put enough time in between sound checks. Zach did have a bad gig. He's apologized. This blew up quickly and got way too much oxygen. We're going to move forward now back with Zach and the band. The revolving door, The Who. These gentlemen are in their 80s, and they're still having days where they're like, "Oh, fire the drummer!"
Is this, when you're in a marriage for this long, things happen? Or is this a couple of guys just being too big for their own britches, even as big as they are?
Pete's been deaf for 30 years, and Roger's losing his sight and his hearing. I think it's just a couple of really, really grumpy old guys. Although Roger was really grumpy 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, at the Royal Albert Hall, had a major dust-up with Roger Daltrey.
Gorman in the morning. Coming right back. 92 KQRS. Streaming from 92KQRS.com. Gorman in the morning is back. 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the morning on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Good Monday morning. It is April 21st. We've gotten through the Easter weekend. 420 piled on top of Easter yesterday.
That's
Everybody
insanity.
Go get cooked or what?
I mean, that's a killer combo, if you will.
Sure it was.
Absolutely.
Look at Ryder. She's like, I don't know what to say here. I don't want to admit just how baked I was all day long celebrating 420. I know you.
She didn't want to incriminate herself.
It.
Right.
Hey, surprise for me on Saturday. Went to see Kendrick Lamar.
Nice.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Wow.
I was so happy. First of all, spur of the moment decision. Second of all, spur of the moment decision where I actually scored tickets because I happen to know a guy who knew a guy, and so we got lucky.
It's nice to know all those guys.
It is nice to know all those guys. And then third, boy, talk about husband of the year. My wife, massive Kendrick fan.
Oh, dear.
And because we've had an awful lot going on the last few months, just lost sight of the actual date, and it was off our radar entirely. And then at like 4:45 p.m., like, oh, crap, Kendrick's tonight. And I was like, boy, I'm not. We talked about it on Friday. I was like, I should probably get her an Easter basket. She'd actually like that. I was like, well, it's too late to get an Easter basket because I forgot. But I bet if I get these Kendrick tickets, I'll be the king of the world.
Wouldn't even notice.
We went to the show. I don't care for stadium shows generally. Like I hate being in a line and being around a billion people, and then if I don't like it, then you're stuck, and there's 100,000 people all leaving a place. Didn't notice any of it. It was awesome.
Nice.
What would you say is like the biggest takeaway from the show as a whole?
That guy's a genius, and whoever puts together the visuals on those giant boards. I don't go to a lot of stadium shows, so every time I do, I'm always like blown away by what they've cooked up with lately. It's always like, oh my God, there's really smart, creative people in the world making things like this make sense.
Stage presentations, especially in stadiums, have gone to just another level.
Yeah, just exciting. And I think the best, I mean, it was because it wasn't planned, because it was unexpected. Those always make for the best nights.
For sure.
When you're walking in going, oh, well, let's just do it. Let's not overthink it. Let's not talk ourselves out of it. We're going, we'll get in there, and then boom, next thing you know, we're walking out 3 hours later, and I'm like, I'm so glad we went. That was great.
If you'd have gotten those tickets 3 months ago and have been counting it down, it would have been
I would have been
a
coming
letdown.
up with reasons not to go all week
Or
long.
you'd have gone and it been a letdown because it wouldn't have lived. Yeah, totally. That's the way to do it.
Absolutely fantastic. So as I said, it is Monday morning. If you're just getting up and joining us, good morning. Let's feel Minnesota together. Here's some headlines.
Also, check this out. Minnesota becoming known for something not so great. That'd be federal programs fraud. Unfortunately, Minnesota woman has admitted to stealing more than $360,000 in Social Security benefits by impersonating her deceased mother over a 25-year period. Federal prosecutors announced this. Mavius Redmond of Austin, Minnesota, stole well more than $250,000 in taxpayer funds. She scammed Social Security for decades.
Wow. Not
right?
cool. Not cool.
It's less than ideal is, I think, what they say. You know what I mean?
I would say that is absolutely less than ideal. But at the same time, if it's 25 years and all she got was $360,000, I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
For that amount of time? Holy smokes.
Yeah, for decades, for sure. Sad news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church for the last 12 years, has passed. He passed just hours ago, in fact, at the age of 88. Exact cause of death hasn't been announced yet, but you remember he's been hospitalized, was hospitalized in February for respiratory crisis, is what they called it. He's also suffered from chronic lung disease as well. 88's a good run, but you just hate to see good people go.
I would normally have called my mom as soon as I heard to discuss with her. She preceded him to the pearly gates in mid-March, and so I'm sure she's right there waiting for him going, come on, son, I always liked you. He's a good, by all accounts, a man with genuine concern and compassion.
For humanity.
For those, especially with the least among us. So rest easy, Francis. I hope they replace somebody with half the heart that you seem to have.
That film that was done, garnered a fair amount of nominations and whatnot, has become suddenly quite relevant, that Conclave flick.
Oh, sure.
And I've read it's a very accurate depiction of the process. The ending, not so accurate, but so if you're curious of how they go about, maybe go watch that flick, how they go about picking the successor to Pope Francis.
Okay.
How about this? You could almost call this a get-rich-quick scheme. A drumhead used by the late John Bonham between 1973 and 75 that sold last September for $45,000. Last September for $45,000 has sold again for $87,500.
Sure.
That's a hell of a turn, though, in a couple of months.
Wait, the front head from a kick drum that he played on tour with Led Zeppelin?
Correct.
I'm surprised it was only that 6 months ago.
45 seems like a deal.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
There's not a lot of those floating around.
Right. But still, to be able to acquire it in September and then flip it and essentially double your money.
That just means whoever sold it in September just did not know their ass from a hole in the ground.
The head has the symbol on it for Led Zeppelin 4, so that gives you kind of a perspective on what it looked like. So
the Ballantine Ale logo, if you want to Google that, if you don't want to Google Led Zeppelin 4. I don't think that's where he got it from, but maybe he did. I don't know. He liked beer, so who knows?
Who knows?
Don't know if he was drinking like the best beer out of Rhode Island at the time, but, he could have.
As long as it carried sound, that's all that really matters. Sam's Club is phasing out its in-person checkouts at all of its 600 locations.
Really?
I had heard we were going the other way. They were going to start getting rid of that and start bringing back tellers and actually walking through. Not with Sam's Club. The retail giant will replace its checkouts with scan and go and just walk technology, so customers will have to scan their goods on the Sam's Club mobile app. Then an AI scanner will check the goods when a customer leaves the store. A newly opened store in Grapevine, Texas has features like a vertical tire carousel, automated forklifts, and a pizza robot in the cafe, as well as the new AI checkouts. This is insane.
in the game of Red Rover, I chose Costco years ago.
Okay.
Been to both. Always preferred Costco. So
Agreed. They're
in your
meat.
face, Sammy.
Yeah, take that, Sam. And I bet you Costco ain't going to have a bunch of robots checking us out
Not a
either.
chance. Not a chance.
And they've got some of the best meats Costco does.
Shocking.
Holy smokes.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Restaurant grade. Higher than restaurant grade, generally speaking.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal.
It's kind of weird. Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. There you go.
All right. How about some sports headlines?
I
How
love
about the
sports.
fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves have got two things going for them? They've got an offensive juggernaut when McDaniels and Ant-Man are hot, and now they're playing some spectacular defense again, as the Los Angeles Lakers learned when the Timberwolves handed them their ass. 117-95 Saturday night. Huge win for the Timberwolves in Game 1 on the road. Here is a little bit of Anthony going over Luka.
Ant sidestep, thought about the pull-up three, instead off to Nikhil, right back to Ant. He'll line up the three ball and stroke it! Catch and shoot three, Anthony Edwards. He's got three more, 22 for the game to go along with his 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
Luka Doncic had a fine game for the Lakers, or I should say a fine first half anyway. The team really did very little. Minnesota took 43s, and close to 30 of those were uncontested. Seriously, I'm not just saying that. You look through the highlights, it's like the Lakers' defense was beyond flat-footed. JJ Redick, I almost said JJ Reed. JJ Redick, Laker coach, after the game said, they surprised us with their physicality and, the aggressiveness and all. It's like, well, they're a lot younger and they got hammered by Luka's team in the playoffs last year. Yeah. They're pretty motivated. And I will give the Timberwolves credit for this. They don't care. They are. Bill Simmons always says they're the greatest irrationally confident team in the league. They literally think they're the best team every time they go on the court, whether they are or not. And, boy, this is a good time of year to feel that way.
Well, you have a good run last year. You are the across-the-board underdogs in this series. Mm-hmm. You could easily use the motivation of, we've got nothing to lose. Go play free. Just go have fun.
And it's good on a Saturday night in LA when you go into the Staples Center or whatever it's called now, the Crypto Dome, and you're just looking at all these celebrities and the LA crowd, and then to go out there and just thump that team, that's got to feel pretty good. Let's keep the focus, young Timberwolves, and get it done tomorrow night as well. Nothing like a couple days off to give those old Lakers some rest, though. The Minnesota Wild kicked off their series with the Vegas Golden Knights last night. A 4-2 defeat at the hands of the Knights. There was a last-second empty netter. It was a 3-2 game for all intents and purposes. Matt Boldy with 2 goals. Kaprizov assisted on both. Gustafsson, 23 shots saved, but not enough. As we've been saying, a good, even-matched series until you start looking at the depth. And it looks like the Wild are a little thinner, and this will probably go 6 or 7, a lot of people are saying, but the Knights are still a prohibitive favorite.
I think it's a 7-game series. I think it's the same thing, though, that the Wild always seem to come up against is – when you get up against a team that's got big defensemen, they have a tough time in front of the net. They have a tough time producing goals. They didn't get much depth scoring last night. They got Matt Boldy, like you said, but that said, this team doesn't quit. They don't. I mean, that game against the Ducks that we talked about, where Fleury came in, that proves how much how resilient these guys are. Hopefully, they can take it to 7 and then never know what happens.
Positive hockey news: the United States women won the World Championships yesterday in the Czech Republic. They defeated Canada 4-3 in overtime.
Nice.
Tessa Janecki with the goal, the assist from Taylor Heisey of your Minnesota Frost.
Yeah, buddy.
Lake City girl, Red Wing High, Minnesota Gopher, Minnesota Frost, all around badass with the steal and the assist to set up the goal. A great moment as the U.S. women beat, again, Canada for the championship. Well done, ladies.
Love that.
And then finally, just in case anyone's still wondering, the Twins are not all that great.
They suck, huh?
Well, the Atlanta Braves just swept them. Let's see, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position yesterday, 0 for 8 on Saturday. So that's improvement.
If you're going to suck in April. Don't suck after the All-Star break. Be bad now.
That's a
they're
very
just
good point.
Figuring it out. Sure.
I'm sure the 91 Twins were somewhere along, not looking all that great in April as well, if memory serves. Hey, Dayton, glad to have you with us. Dayton, Minnesota. We're sending you a little bit of Gorman in the Morning love right now.
That's a good little, quiet little spot. I like that town.
You like that spot, do
I
you?
do, yeah.
Hey,
There's a mansion
great
out there,
news
too.
for fans of the old Johnny Quest Saturday morning cartoon like me. Quicksand is real, and you better watch out because it's closer than you might think. Gorman in the morning on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Good Monday morning. It is April 21st, and by God, quicksand is real. I spent all those years worried about quicksand like every kid of my generation did, all to find out that, hey, it actually exists, apparently. I had a beach on Lake Michigan, and as a Muskegon, Michigan native who grew up on the shores of that very lake, this really strikes close to home.
So wait, this is not in like Africa or South America. This is here. We have quicksand here.
This is late off in the northwest coast, northwest side of Michigan, up on the coast. Leland City, I think it's called. Just a little. It's in the middle of nowhere, basically. A guy named Mitchell O'Brien walking along the beach with a, in quotes, good friend, a woman that they've been friendly for a few years. He steps out into the water, and then he hits this combination. We're calling it quicksand. Some combination of sand and grit and grum, and the water's flowing. All of a sudden, he starts to sink rapidly.
Wow.
Goes all the way down to his waist.
Wow. Okay, that's what I was just going to ask.
I mean,
how deep did it get?
There are photos. It's just off the water line. He is like, his legs are toast, and it's coming in fast. And he and his friend, they both call 911, and then there's a whole little bit of a Chuck Woolery love connection that happens here in the moment of crisis. But here's a little bit of them talking about this.
I thought we needed help instantly. He was very good at reassuring that he would get out of there and that he was okay.
The sand was just getting put back almost faster than I could get it out of the way.
To me, those moments were terrifying, honestly, just to see somebody you care about in a situation.
I referred to her as my girlfriend that's trying to call as well. At the exact same time, she got through to another operator and said, my boyfriend is stuck in the sand.
2 years of this guy being my best friend and just trying to hide everything, how I felt, and then he tried to die on me.
Man,
And becomes my boyfriend in the middle of it.
If this had been an after-school special from back in the day when I was worried about quicksand, he actually would have died, and the lesson would have been express your feelings. Don't wait to tell someone you love them. That's how that would have gone. But so I'm not making this up. The photo, it looks like it looks like you're looking at a man who doesn't have legs, who's just like out there at the water line. He did sink very, very quickly. It's a very, very strange thing to realize is happening in Michigan. This is, to me, quicksand was, if it wasn't number one on my list of things I was afraid of, it was pretty close. The Bermuda Triangle also, as a kid. Come on. 70s and 80s kids, the Bermuda Triangle was a constant fear.
Inexplicable terror is what that is. Like, just complete unknown. I think the moral of the story here is don't go hunting on the beach for rocks.
Well, that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, just stay off the beach.
Piranhas, also terrified of piranhas back in the day.
Oh, sure, and the floor turning into lava?
Always.
I mean, really?
No, that was a Gorman staple. You just put a few pillows on the floor and you had to land on those if you touched the rug.
Even back then they played that?
Oh yeah, and we had that tight coil rug where if you fell in, then the older brothers would they'd like rub your knee into it to give you a rug burn. As in, that's the lava got you, so we have to make sure you're in pain.
Our kids were into a show on Netflix for a minute called Floor is Lava. Like, it was an actual game show they turned it into,
So quicksand, the Bermuda Triangle, piranhas. I'm trying to think of what else used to keep me up. Oh, I did have a Bigfoot hot minute where I was worried about Bigfoot. I won't lie to you.
Yeah.
I mean, here, the tornadoes were a real thing. It's not nearly as adventurous and out there, but...
those are real. Those are legitimate concerns.
And now
fair,
quicksand is too.
Apparently now quicksand added to the list of seasonal weather conditions. I also, not gonna kick sand in my parents' faces, but as the youngest of 8 kids, they were a little lax on certain things. It didn't seem to bother them that there was a copy of the book Helter Skelter laying around for 10-year-old Steve to pick it up and flip through there. So let's see: quicksand, piranhas, Bermuda Triangle, and the Manson family. That's my childhood fears in a nutshell.
Excellent.
Good times. At least There's some legitimate fears, as it turns out. Who knew?
I'm listening to your stories, and I'm thinking, God, I was raised in such relative safety. I had pretty much none of those fears for the most part. I mean,
are you kidding?
Playfully, but
One of my biggest irrational fears is getting buried alive, so I'm pretty insistent on being cremated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's then I'm sure you've let Steven know very clearly, like, hey man, don't mess around with this.
I have the most irrational fear of anybody.
Which is?
I always double check the toilet when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And I've got a house full of girls, so I just sit because it's easier, right? I'm deathly afraid of the snake coming out of the toilet and giving you a little bite in the taint.
Yep.
It's completely, it's not going to happen, but I always check to make sure the toilet water is clear before I sit.
Number 2 on my list of 3 irrational fears.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, not kidding.
Did you guys grow up in Bolivia? Who the hell's worried? I hate snakes, and I'm not even worried about that.
Like I said, I can't explain it, but I check every single time when I sit down.
I tell you what, though, see, I totally get the idea you don't want to be buried alive. You're going to be cremated. Makes perfect sense. But you have to put in some hard, fast rules about what happens with those cremains because you just don't want the kids to get into them. Trust me when I say you do not want to get mom reason to go off because somebody found the ashes.
Gorman in the morning. Coming right back.
Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down. That was the lead single from Full Moon Fever, his first solo album in 1989.
Yeah.
They made this record, he and Jeff Lynne and Mike Campbell, and they took it to MCA Records, the label, and they said, here it is. And the guys at MCA listened to it and went, we don't hear any hits.
What the really?
The Full Moon Fever that we all know, which is, as I like to say, chock full of hits. MCA was like, no. And they sat on it, and 6 months later, you're Tom Petty. You're already Tom Petty in all capital letters. Mm-hmm. You're with Jeff Lynne, another name that rings out.
Jeff
Lynne. And they cannot get anybody at MCA to relent. They're like, we feel like this is really good. And the label just keeps going, we don't hear it. And then the whole A&R department gets fired, and they bring in a whole new staff. 6 months later, they play these new guys the record, and they're like, why isn't this already out? These are all hits. And one thing leads to another. You never know what it takes to get a record out to the people is the point.
And just context for those that don't have Full Moon Fever track list memorized, Free Fall and Running Down a Dream, I Won't Back Down, all on that record. And, I'm just like off the top of,
He did okay with that one.
Yeah. Solid efforts.
Yeah, but I guarantee you the people that didn't hear hits, I bet they had some nice suits.
I don't doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I bet they knew all the places to get a good late night meal in L.A. They didn't know a hit song from a hole in the ground.
Sounds like they needed to go get new suits though after that.
So Ryder, with her fear of being buried alive, will be cremated, and that's a personal choice that I respect. I'm all for it. We've discussed the very same thing. Right? My wife and I, when we got married, we came up with our whole plan. If one of us were to pre-check out on the other.
One of you probably is going to pre-check out on the other.
Well, you never know. So we do fly together sometimes. We don't do the VP president thing. We get on the same plane. You never know. No, but, we were like, hey, if this happens, then do this and take me here and put me there. We got a whole thing in plan.
Right.
A lot of people do that. But seems to me that one of the most important things, one of the most important pieces of the plan with what to do with one's cremains is to make sure that you keep them away from your children.
Out of sight and out of reach.
Yeah. Generally, it seems like once a quarter we get a story like this. Every few months, somebody goes public with the fact that, that's not Play-Doh, those are ashes. A TikTok video, a woman named Natasha Emini, discovered during they were doing a little work in the house, and her father's ashes in an urn had always been placed out of reach, but they had some new flooring put down. She had moved it to a lower shelf for whatever reason, and walks into a room, and there is her toddler son, and it sounds like this.
Oh my God, when your son eats your dad as ashes, my son has eaten my dad's ashes.
I came upstairs to bring some washing. Went back down a few minutes later, and he had it all over his mouth. I was in complete shock.
They probably look like paper mache people.
Probably so. You just gotta roll with it, though. I mean, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle, and there's no getting those ashes back in the urn.
No, and this kid is just blotchy all over his face and his shirt and his clothes. It's like he went to town on chocolate cake or something. Man. Not tasty.
I've these stories pop up every now and again, but I have heard. I like I mean, this is kind of funny, but I'm always up for interesting stories about what people do with other people's ashes. I mean, there's a lot of very heartwarming, and then sometimes just really funny things people have done.
Oh, yeah. We just got a text the other day from somebody who said that I believe their father's ashes were in a Pillsbury Doughboy cookie jar. And then sent us a picture of the cookie jar.
Yeah, that's right.
You're asking for it then, in that case.
Well, sure. 651-989-ROCK. If you've got a cremains story that either something you've done yourself or what you plan to be done with yours. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to top the great Hunter S. Thompson. No. His friends put in the money, and they just blasted him from a cannon, I should say, up into the stratosphere. Nice. That's about as good as it gets.
I don't think I'll have the budget for that.
Yeah, no. Put me in a Roman candle and just shoot the kid across the street who you don't like. Something like that. Maybe a bottle rocket. I'd be all for it. 651-989-ROCK. What's your good ashes story?
It's Gorman in the Morning with Fletcher and Ryder, 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the Morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. In 2012, Peter Gabriel played a concert in Los Angeles, and John Cusack walked out on stage before that song started, put the boombox over his head, wearing the overcoat, just did the whole thing.
God,
full-on Lloyd Dobler. That would be pretty awesome.
He was such a cool dude.
Who's that?
John Cusack, Lloyd Dobler.
That character.
Yeah.
He just pretty much wrote that whole character. Cameron Crowe had a very different thing in mind, and Cusack was like, yeah, I'll do it, but we got to make him way more unique and real. Good meeting of the minds on that one. We're talking on the show about what you're doing with your ashes or the ashes of your loved ones. 651-989-ROCK. After yet another kid discovered Grandpa's ashes and thought they were snacks. These things happen. We've got somebody on the horn right now who has a story for us. I believe this is Sally. Good morning, Sally.
This is actually Shelly.
Oh,
Shelly.
That's my bad, Shelly. Sorry about that.
Good to have you, Shelly.
Yes.
Good morning.
What do you got for us?
Well, my brother was an avid Harley-Davidson fan, and he loved nothing more than being out on his Harley. So when he passed away tragically in 2018, he had his ashes put in the gas tank of a Harley-Davidson that we specially made just for him. His name was Brad Peach.
Oh, right. Well, I'm sorry for your loss, but hey, man, he's where he wanted to be, if nothing else.
Exactly, and he's always in our hearts and in our minds.
Of course.
Love and miss him to death, but
so you had
where he's at. Yep.
You had this bike custom made?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is it a full bike or is it a tank?
It's just a tank.
Okay.
And it's a Harley-Davidson tank with the Harley-Davidson on the side, logo, whatever. And then it's his birth date and his date of his death.
Right.
Such a cool tribute.
He was known to many as Butch, Butchie, or Buddha.
All right.
There we go.
Butch, Butchie, or Buddha. I like all three. And that beats the hell out of just the old standard urn off the shelf. That's really nice. Shelly, thanks for the call.
Doesn't it? Thank you so much.
You got it.
Have a great day.
Martha texted in 651-989-ROCK. I have a memorial tattoo with my sister's ashes in it, and then she sent a picture, and it's beautiful. And that's a great. I've heard of that before. You can get the ashes added into the ink and have it tattooed in. That's pretty outstanding.
That's awesome, actually.
Keith Richards, of course, very famously, when his father passed and was cremated, he told a journalist that I added my dad's ashes into a little bit of blow and snorted him. And the journalist then took that seriously. And Keith, like a week later, goes, of course I didn't do that. I just said that just to say something. But, of course, because it's Keith Richards, you have to go, wait, did?
I mean, that's maybe how he's lasted so long.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret.
He's for a very long time. Any story you hear, what do they call it? The Tyson zone. There was a moment in Mike Tyson's life where any story anyone ever told you had to go, yeah, I think that might be actually true.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Keith has been there since 72.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since Exile on Main Street came out, there's really nothing you could say about Keith Richards where someone won't go, yeah, probably.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could very well be there.
Yeah, checks out.
Wally texted in, I was going to get a job with a crematory repair company in town. I did the infield shadow interview day repairing a furnace with the owner. At the end of the day, my pants were all dusty, and I said to the guy, so what, I have like 100 dead people on me now, right? And he said, no, more like 1,000.
Oh.
Yow!
See, that just... Yeah,
Wally, did you just wash the jeans? Like, what do you do there?
I think you just wash them. I think you just forget it. I think go jump in the river. You know what I mean? Just take a quick dip. I like this one from John. I put some of my dad's ashes into the head of one of his old drivers and then shortened the shaft and replaced the grip to make a shorty for the mantle. Nice. Personally, I want to be shellacked and set out in the front yard. It's a little different.
I mean, I would, if you're going to go through all that trouble, make it a golf club you can use.
I was expecting him to say that, but
go pound around 18 at a time. You know, let Dad help you get down the fairway straight. Hopefully.
Lemmy from Motorhead, famously, someone texted this in. His ashes were put into bullets and then sent to friends.
And they're like his blood is everywhere too. Like I think James Hetfield has a tattoo that he says is part Lemmy's blood. That dude's everywhere.
Lemmy is everywhere. Lemmy is everything. Yes. There's a little bit of Lemmy wherever you go. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, there's a little bit of Lemmy anywhere you find yourself. Here's one on the text line. My wife has been instructed to put my ashes into 2 24-ounce Hamm's beer cans, put them in an old boat, and shoot with a flaming arrow to send me to Valhalla. All right.
Yes, that is like so close to the Viking funeral.
It's pretty.
The Minnesota version.
Yeah, they had more like it was like a grog of mead, but that can be a can of Hamm's beer now. That's fine.
I mean, you got to update everything, right?
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Not too many people are, drinking grogs of mead, I don't think, anymore, so...
Well, I mean, not maybe the people you hang out with. I mean, come on, man.
That's fair. I'm sure there's probably a pocket somewhere. I'm just saying, probably not a lot.
There was another case. So we played the kids who got into it a few months ago. We had a similar story, and I mean, I just feel bad. I feel bad ultimately, mostly for Pawpaw.
The boys got Pawpaw. They got him and they dumped him out all over my carpet, and I didn't realize it was Pawpaw. And I vacuumed him up. They may have eaten some of them, too. Because Rami had the cap in his mouth.
Oh, Rami. How do you not notice it's Pawpaw? You had to have seen the urn was spilled. Mm-hmm. Like, was it just random ashes? Like, I don't buy it.
Hey, man, you know what? You got toddlers in the house.
Sounds like a TikTok story to me.
Things are going to go sideways quickly.
Making things up.
In the best of circumstances, it's a nightmare. I'll just say, parenthood's a nightmare. Is the resentment coming through? No, I'm kidding, of course. Gina texted down. I used to have horses and always said to spread my ashes in the pasture. Now I have to use a friend's pasture. Yeah, the ashes in the pasture. The ashes wherever. I mean, I watched someone doing it, and someone I did not know walked out into a lake waist deep, and they had the ashes, and they were getting ready to do something. And it's fine. The ashes all ended up in the lake regardless. My wife and I, this was just a few years ago down south, and we were just sitting in a parking lot by a lake. Our daughter was with some friends in this park. We were going to pick her up, and we just parked right by the water's edge, and we watched a couple walk out, and the guy stopped about knee deep. His wife went further, about waist deep in this little lake, and she clearly opened an urn, and she was saying something, but like some wind came up, and the pour didn't go the way she wanted, and she was really upset. It was kind of tough, we were watching, but we don't say a word. We're sitting there at the window. We can hear their voices, can't really make out every word.
Yeah.
And at some point, the husband goes, it's all in the water anyway. Who cares? Like he was supportive and sad for her sadness for about 30 seconds, and she was still upset about it. And then he finally was like, and I just thought, he didn't like his mother-in-law. You can just tell. You can just tell. I could read that one like a book. All right, Feeling Minnesota headlines. Sit right there. Why don't you?
Gorman in the morning. Coming right back. 92 KQRS. Streaming from 92KQRS.com. Gorman in the morning is back. 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder, Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Hey, that's Rush. And hey,
drums.
That's Neil Peart.
Yeah.
Pretty good drummer. How funny is it that the man had to die before the world decided to pronounce his name correctly? Everyone said Peart forever, myself included.
Really?
Not up until that point, but in the 90s, I was Neil Peart, and finally someone's like, it's Peart. And then I really think that it wasn't until he passed that everybody finally was like, guys, it's Peart. Because, he's Canadian, so he never corrected anyone.
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, gosh. However you want to say it's fine. And the truth is, say whatever you want. Those tracks speak for themselves. The great Neil Peart right there. I would imagine he started drumming at a very early age. I just don't think you turn into that kind of guy without a whole lot of time spent alone in your basement with a drum kit. Probably not a lot of friends. I'm sorry. You just don't turn into that kind of guy without a lot of me time.
Beyond driven, right? Yeah. And just like a calling that you just have to go back to over and over again.
And then also with the gift of just an audacious ambition with that drum kit. Like the audacity of doing what he did. It blows my mind. I don't know if he started playing drums when he was 19 months old. But I do know that the internet is going crazy over the fact that a young lad in California, a 19-month-old kid, discovered his father's drum kit recently, and apparently we got ourselves a prodigy.
I remember your first thought, you were like, oh, there goes my drum set. Like, it's no longer mine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's set up to where he can play it, and I've hardly touched it at all.
Mom and Dad just gushing.
They sat a kid down he was a little over a year the first time he sat down at his dad's electronic home kit, and he just started playing a beat along to records, and they set him up with music. And so now, of course, they've established an Instagram account for the kid.
Why wouldn't you? That's how you get discovered these days, right?
That's how you get discovered.
It was a Christmas gift for Dad.
Yeah,
and the kid said, "Nope, that's mine, buddy."
Oh, that's so cute. No chance this kid ever makes it in a rock band.
Okay, so this reminds me of an old Letterman bit where he would have like somebody come out on a unicycle spinning dinner plates, and then he'd turn to Paul Schaefer and say, "Is this anything?"
Yeah.
So Steve, as a real drummer, is this anything?
No, of course not. No.
Is he doing anything?
Nah.
No.
There's a lot of kids that can hit their two hands together and do it in time.
It looks good.
Yeah,
but I imagine it sounds a lot like if you put me behind a drum kit.
Sure.
I could probably make it look like what a drummer does, but it ain't gonna sound like anything.
He was keeping time at one point, though. I mean, the arms were doing different things.
You're so excited about this, and I hate to pop the balloon. No, he might one day be a fine drummer, but a kid just hitting something in time. I watched my kids do that. I've watched a lot of kids do that. You sit them down, right, and the hands start going together, and you just play. Just about anybody you know to loud music can keep pretty close to steady time. Anybody, really? I mean, the people that can't are truly the people that have trouble walking and chewing gum.
Yeah.
Most people, if they don't think about it, can do that, at least that much.
I still think it looks pretty dang impressive.
It looks cool.
It looks impressive, but does it sound cool?
I was down until I saw the Instagram account. And then I'm like, nope, there's a Netflix documentary about the people who turn their kids into Instagram stars.
Bad influencing.
And it says, it says the dark side of that. And I'm like there's a positive side to it?
Yeah, what's the light side then? Yeah, I thought the exact same thing.
I'm not trying to, look, the kid might turn out to be great, but this is what I was thinking. No kid that has ever been put on the, in the old days, if your parents wanted you to be a star, like in vaudeville, you grew up and you were like, I guess this kid's getting, like Buddy Rich, one of the great drummers of all time. Okay. He was a vaudeville drummer. He was out there. He was playing when he was a kid, and he turned out to be sensational. But we normally know how it goes. Childhood star rarely turns into adult star. And in rock and roll terms, if you want this kid, he's playing along to Green Day records. That's really cool. You're doing it wrong. He needs to discover his own music. Don't shove your music down your kid's throat. That's not cool. That's not where the next generation of cool rockers comes from.
Yeah, but you know what happens then? If you don't force your music on your kids, I end up with endless YouTube videos of pop stars that are just obnoxious.
That's right. And it's fine. And then your kids will go back one day. When your kids come around to your music on their own, it sticks.
Yeah.
When they are like, I can't believe he's playing that Wilco record again, then you failed as a parent.
I'm mostly joking, but that's how we've done it. We've let them discover on their own, and that leads them to pop music, and I'm actually fine with it. But just some of it gets to be like nails on a chalkboard. Like, you're killing me, man.
Oh, sure. No,
Mariah Grande is one of the worst things walking the planet right now.
You gotta let him just have it, man. Let him go.
She's so bad. She's so bad. Okay,
what?
Sorry.
Really?
I can't stand it. Like,
what's wrong with Ariana Grande?
I thought she
obnoxious.
she can actually sing, though,
She can absolutely sing.
Like, I know what I like, but I'm not a good judge of if music is good or not good. I just know what's fun. She can actually sing. Yes?
She can actually sing. She's great in Wicked. I'm not fully against her. It should show my objectivity. Plus, like Tate McRae's fine. Sabrina Carpenter's fine. Olivia Rodrigo, Taylor Swift. Like, I live in all of this stuff. And I'm fine with all of it. Ariana Grande's awful, man. It's just...
I can't get past the fact that Tate McRae, to me, sounds like a linebacker for Texas A&M.
Right?
Tate McRae popped up on the weak side and brought that quarterback down.
She don't look like a linebacker.
It's just not the name for a Canadian pop star.
That's right.
It just needs. I just want to see shoulder pads. I want to see people talking about the dog. She got a big dog in her. She's going to bring down that quarterback. It's just me. What can I say? It's April 21st, a very sad day that we would be remiss if we did not mention. A big day for not just the Twin Cities, but the world on this day 9 years ago.
It's Gorman in the Morning with Fletcher and Ryder, 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the Morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Minnesota's probably and arguably most famous son, Prince Rogers Nelson, right there. 9 years ago today, Prince died. That is an astounding thing to wake up and realize. It's been 9 years. And I can only imagine, and we've talked about this the last 2 years on this same day and at other times, but I was not here when that happened. I was still in Nashville. I can't imagine what the feeling in this town was. I know what it was where I lived, and it was utter just devastation and sadness. Everywhere I went for days, again, in Nashville, Tennessee, everybody you ran into, and I don't mean people I knew. You'd be at the grocery store, you'd be at the gas station, and you just look up and somebody would go, Prince, man. I mean, it was nonstop. Yeah. It was, I would imagine as an adult, it was not unlike when John Lennon was killed. I knew that as a teenager, but as an adult, I would imagine it was that was what was happening back then. But it was really everywhere I went. Ryder, do you remember hearing the news? Where were you?
Yeah, I was in Sioux Falls on an active rock station.
Okay.
So we played the really, really loud stuff, like tons of Metallica, Avenged Sevenfold, all that kind. I still announced it, and the phone still blew up for like, hey, do you guys think you could play Purple Rain today?
I bet.
And these are like crazy rock fans.
Right.
So yeah, it was a big deal even there.
Fletcher?
I was here. I was on the air at a different radio station when that happened.
Wow.
When it was announced, anyway.
Yeah.
And I still, the thing that the first thing that popped into my head was that it rained that day.
Oh, really?
Which was like, I mean, call it romantic, but it was just wild that it turns out that it rains on days in April.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean? But at
still.
the same time, it was pretty. And the other thing I remember is the celebration that happened. I don't know. I can't remember if it was organized. I feel maybe it was organized, but I like to remember it as being spontaneous. A big celebration that happened out on the corner of First Ave and 7th Street.
Sure.
The next day.
Yeah.
And it was just like the streets were just, and the party went late.
I'm sure it was going to
awesome.
go on. I know they opened Target Field, too. I mean, I remember watching that on the news in Nashville. And, a few days, like a week earlier, there had been the false alarm stories that he had suffered. He was on a flight after a show in Atlanta, I believe, and they had made an emergency landing for a medical situation, and that was never – that we talked about that at the time, and it's like, wow, I wonder what that means. And I was doing a sports show back then. I was doing Steve Gorman Sports on the Fox Sports Network, and I was out walking the dog. I was oh, my gosh, I just realized it wasn't Chauncey, it was Zelda. Chauncey has never lived on this planet. Chauncey might be Prince. Never mind. I don't want to connect those dots. No, but just what made me sad to just think, oh, man, Chauncey wasn't even around for Prince. I was walking my dog late morning, and my producer called me, as he would normally do, to say, hey, we're going to talk about this today. And I said, hey, what's up? And all he said was, hey, did you hear about Prince? And after the thing 5 or 6 days earlier, my heart just sank. And we both, this guy was 12 years younger than me, but we both grew up, me in the 80s, he in the 90s, just obsessed with Prince.
Yeah.
And we were both just crying on the phone. And I'm standing outside my house with my dog on a leash on my phone, and a neighbor walked by, and they were like, oh, my God, are you okay? And I looked at this guy, and I go, Prince died. And he goes, wait, what? And it was just overwhelming. And I'm getting sad right now even thinking about it. It's hard to imagine. That there was a time when I just thought he was going to live forever. I really did. I mean, he just didn't slow down. It didn't look like he had slowed down a step as far as I knew.
And like from afar, he didn't age a minute.
Not at all.
Still looked like a 25-year-old. It was unbelievable.
9 years. It's pretty incredible to think. By the way, just because I love useless trivia, also on this day, Mark Twain in 1910 died. Mark Twain, author of many brilliant things, but one of my favorite quotes: travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness.
Correct.
And many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. And also on this day, check this out. 1918, Baron Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron himself, was killed on this day in 1918.
Wow.
Wait,
Flying?
not just the pizza guy?
No, this was a
The
real.
Red
This was the German ace in World War I.
Okay.
My man shot down he had over 80 confirmed kills in the First World War. He was by far the greatest pilot. He was shot down,
Snoopy was a hell of a pilot.
made a perfect landing with a bullet in his chest and passed away in his seat waiting for people to come pull him out of the plane. Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
That's insane.
The Red Baron. Yeah, and so then all these years later, somebody made a frozen pizza, and they were like, do you think we need to get clearance on Red Baron? They're like, nah, it was just a nickname. Go for it.
Whoever runs his estate really should get a hold of the pizza people and say, hey, you got to make your pizza a little better.
I don't know
terrible.
I don't know that a World War I German ace has much of an estate that really is going to get to his. They're like, you guys were the bad guys in that one too.
Somebody's got to be like, hey, the pizza's not good enough to stand up to this guy's name. Not that it's bad. I'm just saying,
No, man, I'm never more than a gummy away from thinking that's the best food I've ever had in my life.
No, Jax.
Public domain by now, anyway.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Our legal consultant Ryder has weighed in.
Thank you.
That is absolutely public domain. I love the fact that we're literally wondering
Breaking
if
down.
Red Baron's estate is getting a piece of the action every time a stoner throws one of those
talking
things.
about something as holy as Prince, and then we're breaking down whether or not the pizza's good enough.
Yeah. Well, it's all in a day's work.
Yeah,
we're
you got a
feeling
tangent.
Minnesota.
You're not
We're
tangenting.
feeling Minnesota. Headlines coming up. Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Good Monday morning. It's April 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Like any day of the year, a perfectly fine day to hear I Melt With You by Modern English.
Yeah, that applies to every day,
straight.
every time.
Yeah.
All of that.
It's
every
a little,
mood.
It's a little odd, honestly, how much that song has never aged in my mind.
Okay.
I'm watching Valley Girl. I'm like a kid.
Okay. Yeah.
And Nicolas
I was trying
Cage
to figure out what soundtrack that was from.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man. Just always works. Had the 45.
Timeless.
Had the 45. Just wore it out. Absolutely. Love that song.
Definitely timeless. And I don't think 20 years from now it's going to sound any different.
I don't think that would be the case. It's made it 40. It's got another 20 in it at least.
For sure, at least.
I'm feeling Minnesota, Paul. What's happening in the world?
How about this? The city of Hopkins is going to change its name. You believe that?
Really?
For one day.
What's wrong with Hopkins?
Well, they're going to change it to Paige Beckers next month to honor the former resident and #1 WNBA draft pick. The Hopkins City Council adopted a motion to rename the city Paige Beckers, Minnesota, on May 16th. Do you know the significance of that date?
On May 16th?
That's when she'll make her debut in the WNBA.
I knew that rang a bell somewhere. We were talking about that last week.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. It's going to be Paige and raspberries.
That's pretty good. I grew up in a town called Hopkinsville. So, when you said they were changing the name, I was like, what, are you going to throw a Ville on there? Give me two? But no, guess not.
Pope Francis, you may have heard by now, but in case you haven't, that's what we're here for. The head of the Catholic Church for the last 12 years has passed. But just hours ago, in fact, I think it was like 12:30 our time. The age of 88. Exact cause of death has still not been announced, but if you remember, he's been, pretty sick lately. Chronic lung disease. At 14, he had part of his lung removed, and then he was hospitalized for 39 days, I believe it was, in February for respiratory crisis. They called it.
He was out yesterday in St. Peter's Square in the Pope-mobile Easter Sunday. He made a visit and was driven around, out there open air. And man, I get, he might have known like, wait, it's Easter. I mean, even sick, the Pope's got to get up on Easter and go see the people.
Sure.
They probably just drugged him up enough to get, upright, so to speak, and just.
I'm not going to go on the record as saying they drugged up the Pope, but you run with that, Paul.
Well, I mean medical drugs, of course.
I know, I'm kidding. By all accounts, a man who walked it like he talked it, a good heart in Pope Francis. And I, hey, rest in peace. A guy who spent as much time 100%. As he did talking about the poor and those of us who have the least among us. He gets good marks in my book.
Absolutely. He seemed to care about humanity is a way to generalize it all. A drum head used by the late John Bonham between 1973 and 1975 that sold in September for $45,500, has sold again this week at auction for almost double the price, $87,500. That's not a bad, for a couple of months to double your money like that?
Oh, yeah.
Not too shabby.
I can't believe it sold for half that, just a few months ago. I would have thought any time in the last few years, especially the COVID, all the memorabilia stuff just like skyrocketed during COVID. Everything from baseball cards to signed, autographed album covers. I would have thought a Bonham drumhead would have gone for a whole lot more. The price today makes sense. I can't believe just a few months ago somebody was letting go of it for half that.
Well, and get this. In September, when it was up for auction, the original estimate for that auction in September, when it went for $45,500, the estimate was between $4,000 and $6,600.
Good Lord.
Well, and it went for $45,000.
Really?
I get it. Most drummers don't have a pot to piss in. So maybe they were thinking, who wants this other than another drummer? But it was probably Dave Grohl at the end of the day, now that I think about it.
Last week, Red Robin announced that they were selling, quote, bottomless burger passes. You maybe heard about this, which would get you a burger and a bottomless side every day of the month of May for $20. $20 for 30 burgers or 31.
31 in May.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, welcome to Earth, Paul. Red Robin's bottomless burger passes sold out immediately, even caused a website crash. One person said it was literally easier to get tickets to Taylor Swift than it was to get a Red Robin burger pass. Red Robin never said how many passes they were selling, just that they were limited and they would go quickly. I'm all for one believing that they invent website crashes for stuff like this.
Sure.
How many do you sell? Did they literally sell 40 million passes and cause a website to crash? Come on.
40, so a burger a day for 31 days, and then a bottomless side, which means basically you can eat French fries every time you go.
Wedges, fries they have,
whatever
awesome,
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I've been to a Red Robin, but I don't remember it. But I don't remember thinking I didn't like it. I just didn't go back. I'm sure these are a fine burger. All I know is this: you tell me there's a bottomless anything, I immediately hearken back to the college days with all the old starving student deals at like Ponderosa and the pizza buffets. And you'd go in, you'd buy your plate, and then we would just have a rotation. Every 30 minutes, 2 more guys would come in. There's like tag team, swap sweets. We'd have
like wrestling. You'd take somebody in.
8 or 10 people eating off 2 plates. You know what I mean? You just. You sit down at a table for 4. You go back to the buffet as many times as you can. 2 other guys come in. They sit with you. You chat. The original 2 get up and leave. Those 2 guys are still sitting there with the plate.
It's called working a racket is what that is.
100%.
Yeah.
Crafty.
Yeah.
That's the first place. Red Robin's the first place I ever did the burger, the cheeseburger that comes with a fried egg on it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
First place I had a morning burger, if you will.
Wow, a special moment in every young man's life.
That's right. The Royal Red Robin is what they call it, I think. Yeah.
I always thought
like
a
their
morning.
burgers.
I thought when I hear people say, "Oh, I had a Royal Red Robin the other day early in the morning," I always thought that was a euphemism. Now I find out it's just a burger with an egg.
It might be a euphemism, but for me, it was just a burger that had an egg on it. So it's quite good.
So it would be a meephemism if I'm using that, is what you're telling me.
Wow. All right.
See?
That was something.
All right.
That's all I got. You can take it from here.
I'll be happy to.
Good
I
Lord.
got some headlines that make me feel pretty good. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Yeah.
Just beating down the Lakers Saturday night in Los Angeles, 117-95.
They gave the Lakers a fuzz saw.
Wow. Okay. Jaden McDaniels, 25 points on 11 from 13 from the floor. 9 rebounds. When Jaden McDaniels is on his A game, this is a very, very scary team. Suddenly, Ant had a fine game, an all-around game, very close to a triple-double. Anthony Edwards, of course, more than once took it right at Luka Doncic, either running past him to the rim or, in the case of this, sticking a 3 right in his mug.
Ant sidestep, thought about the pull-up 3, instead off to Nikhil, right back to Ant. He'll line up the 3 ball and stroke it! Catch and shoot 3, Anthony Edwards. He's got 3 more, 22 for the game to go along with his 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
The T-Wolves hit 21 three-pointers. They shot 50%, 21 out of 42. And I kid you not, of those 40 that they shot, 28, 29 of them were uncontested. The Lakers' defense was non-existent out on the perimeter. The Lakers are one of those teams that if you're in a close game down late in the fourth quarter, they have LeBron James, which means they're probably going to be hard to beat if it's a late last minute chess game. But if you have a big lead on them going into the fourth quarter, they're not playing catch up ball. So the Timberwolves got that blueprint. Hit them fast and hit them hard and hit them early. And this might very well be the kind of series a lot of people thought was going to go the other way. Lakers in 4 or 5. But I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I didn't see anything from that Lakers team that told me that they were just laying back and trying to read the room. They just got their asses kicked.
They could adjust. They could figure it out, adjust. The one thing you said, they've got veterans. They could adjust to that. I'm wondering if they can keep this up against Luka. I mean, because Luka had his way with the Wolves last year.
Yeah, they did. Well, but
was he surrounded with more talent last year than he is this year? I don't follow the NBA nearly as closely as I used to.
He was on a team that had played a whole lot more games togetger, and he was not on a team. He didn't have a guy like LeBron James who. It'd be interesting when push comes to shove. Who's making who's taking the final shot? Who's leading the team? If not shooting, who's at least setting the tone, if you will?
Right.
I can tell you right now, it's not going to be Luka Doncic. At least that's not what LeBron thinks. So that may be their undoing. Two of the best players in the league somehow still LeBron, but it might be too much. Anyway, it's very, very positive looking forward. Not quite as positive. The Minnesota Wild opened their series last night in Vegas. They dropped a 4-2 game in Game 1. It was 3-2. The empty netter at the end, I'm not going to count. But the Wild, I did not watch the game. I was in bed by the time this thing got going, probably.
Most of us were.
But it was they were down 3-1 in the third. Boldy got his second goal to put it at 3-2 with 8 minutes left. So they had 8 minutes to try to get themselves back to even footing. Weren't able to do it. An empty netter as time expired made it 4-2. But really, it was a 3-2 game. Could have been a lot worse. We'll just have to see what happens as this progresses. Have you seen anything as we're reading more about the game, because we didn't see it? Okay, give us a silver lining. What do we feel good about?
I feel like it was one of those games where the Wild, for whatever reason, can't find puck luck, which is a phrase we like to use in hockey, right?
Okay.
If they can get some puck luck, things could go very much differently. You're always going to have Minnesota fans especially complaining about missed calls and missed chances, etc.
Yeah.
You get a couple of those bounces to go the other way, and here's the thing. It was an evenly contested game. The Wild out-hit them almost 2-1, which a physical game in the playoffs, that's how it rolls. I mean, that's how, that's way more important than it is in the regular season. I mean, it's a 7-game series the way I see it. They're not out. They didn't outplay them. It was just, it was a pretty even match that pucks went in for Vegas, not for the Wild.
All right, hang in there, Wild fans. We got a long way to go.
See what happens.
Women's hockey, the United States over Canada in the World Championships. That's right. The U.S. women beating the Canadian women yesterday in the Czech Republic. 4-3 was the final score. In overtime, Tessa Janecki scored for the U.S. to win the game. Set up the assist from Taylor Heisey from your Minnesota Frost. It was a very exciting moment for the American women, as always. Anytime you beat Canada in anything.
Take that, syrup suckers.
You take that, syrup suckers. That's right. Yeah. And as per usual, of course, Freebird by Leonard Skinner comes blasting over the PA as they celebrate.
Yeah.
That song, let me see, that's coming up on 53 years old. Wow. Why not? Run it up the flagpole.
I can promise you at the next Minnesota Frost game on April 26th, you'll hear Freebird in the Xcel Energy Center. I know the guy that does the music, and I have a feeling he's going to play that.
Finally, the Twins were swept by the Braves over the weekend. The Twins were 0-for-7 with runners in scoring position yesterday, but that's a day after they were 0-for-8, so it's improvement. It's a little better.
Oh, that's very positive. Yeah, things are moving in the right direction.
It is a bit of a grind. It's a long season.
They play 162 of these games.
That's exactly right.
It might take them 140 to figure it out.
That's why they do it, to keep us interested as long as they possibly can. I'm interested in hearing some Pink Floyd now. What do you say?
Gorman in the morning. Coming right back. 92 KQRS. Streaming from 92KQRS.com. Gorman in the morning is back. 92 KQRS.
Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Pink Floyd right there. A lot of fans of Pink Floyd down in Edina. You just know there have to be.
Of course.
You know why? Because there's Pink Floyd fans everywhere. Edina, glad to have you with us this morning.
Do you think the meat that they're talking about in the song that you can't eat until you have your pudding until you eat it? Do you think they're talking about Spam?
They're probably talking about a British version of Spam.
Okay.
Which would, be like what that is Spam that's been in the can for 17 years. It's not Spam you and I are used to. It's post-war British Spam, which is way past the sell-by date. It's a whole different thing.
Way past.
Speaking of way past the sell-by date, the northern white rhino will soon be an extinct species of animals.
Yeah.
The last male died in 2018. There are 2 living females.
Where do you find a northern white rhino?
Up by Duluth.
Okay. That was my first thought.
Way up north, right there.
I thought that was Nova Scotia.
It's sad to think that they'll soon be joining the dodo and the woolly mammoth and the Tasmanian tiger in extinction. Kind of like nicknames. Yeah, that's right. Nicknames are going the way of the dodo. Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Fun fact, Aha is my second favorite Norwegian band.
Who's number one?
I only know 2, so it's maybe not a ringing endorsement. I'm just saying. No, my favorite Norwegian band is called Kaiser's Orchestra. They're one of my favorite bands on Earth.
You've brought this up before.
They played here in October. For the first time ever, they did an American tour in the fall. They're coming back this fall, and I'm going to hype it for months when I see what the date is, because everybody needs to see the greatest live band I've ever seen. I'm not kidding.
And don't they play like club-sized venues, so you get real up close and personal?
Yeah, they do. And all songs in Norwegian, and it doesn't matter. They are just unlike anything else I've ever seen. Truly tremendous band. They play stadiums in Norway and the High Line in Minneapolis. It's crazy.
Kaiser's Orchestra.
They're incredible. I'm not kidding.
They wear gas masks on stage?
One guy does. Not the whole band. They're not crazy.
Just one guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, funny thing happened on the way to 2025 is we lost our sense of humor. Latest evidence in a writer from the Wall Street Journal, a great comedy rag we all know, is mentioned that he has 5 children. This writer has 5 kids, and he's a little upset because it dawned on him not a single one of his kids. Not a single one of his kids' friends, which with 5 kids, you start expanding out. We're talking a few dozen people. Not any of these people have a nickname. The ages from 6 to 18, his 5, and all of their friend groups throughout all of these children's networks, not a single nickname has been bestowed upon any of these kids. And he's like, what the hell's wrong with us? To which I say, yeah, really? How can there not be nicknames?
Is he talking about him personally, or is he talking about nicknames amongst his kids, amongst their friend groups?
No, amongst the kids. None
among
of those
their friend groups?
His kids have not been given a nickname by any of their friends, and they know, or vice versa, they've not designated any of their friends with a nickname. Everybody I knew growing up had a nickname.
Yeah.
In my family, we all had a bunch of... There were nicknames that only the family used, right? But then, so I was Beaver, but that went outside the Gorman family. Everybody that knew me called me Beav or Beaver.
Okay.
My brother Doug, 2 nicknames, Bug Juice and Huggy. To this day, he's Huggy in my phone, as in Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch.
Right.
Okay.
And then Doug sounded like Bug, and then Bug turned into Bug Juice, which was Kool-Aid-ish, something or other. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And from a large family like myself, I mean, we were designated nickname givers, like at my school. Me, Doug, and Dave, the 3 youngest Gorman boys, we gave a lot of kids growing up their nicknames that stuck, just like Flypaper, Bang. And now, apparently, that's just not the thing. And I'm thinking about that. My kids, like Connell, our son, we call him Connie. Marley, our daughter, I call her Binky for no real reason. But that's just, and now it's B sometimes. I can't stop saying it. I mean, when you were a kid, were you just Paul, or did someone call you anything else?
Mine's a little convoluted. It started with mom and dad. It's only convoluted because here I say Paul Fletcher. My real name is Paul Pulowski. And I only took a stage name with holding up finger quotes because who wants to say Pulowski on the air? So I was Peasky. That was always my nickname growing up.
That works.
Yeah, for sure.
Ryder?
No, I didn't really have, but like all my buddies had nicknames, and they weren't necessarily mean. Like we have a friend in our friend group who goes by Cack. His name is Chad. His name is Chad Allen Cruz, starting with a K. So you just shorten it up because there's a bajillion Chads.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, and by the way, the nickname thing is, even if it's kind of like rude at sounding, generally almost all of them come from a place of affection. You're just throwing a name at somebody and having it stick.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dear friend Grant, one of my closest friends since I was in 7th grade, I just saw him last month. His nickname is Rails.
Okay.
Rails forever. And this is why. The handicap stall at the high school bathroom, you have the rails on the side, and we called those were called grunt rails, as in you got to sit down and you grab onto those when you got to. And
Really
his name was Grant, which kind of sounds like grunt, and so he was Grunt. And then the minute someone called him Grunt, then the next guy said, no, grunt rails, and then it just turned into rails.
Right.
And so every now and again, you'd have to go, why do we call a person rails? And then it goes all the way back to the handicap stall.
And you tell that story,
but it
yeah.
makes perfect sense. It just stuck there. Done.
Yeah,
Done deal.
That's where the best nicknames come from.
Of course.
Is they have like a huge backstory behind them that really doesn't make any sense.
Best way you got your nickname or gave a nickname, 651-989-ROCK. We have to talk about these things while we still can. The clock's ticking. The hours of the sand glass, there's only a few left. Nicknames are on the way out.
It boggles my mind a little bit because, like, my close friends and family, I don't ever call them by their name.
Yeah, I know.
They're just, my best buddy Frank is Doug. He's just Doug. It's inexplicable, but he's just Doug. There's no reason for it.
Like D-U-G?
No, D-O-U-G.
Okay.
He's just Doug. He's always been Doug. Our daughter is named after one of the characters in Silicon Valley on HBO, Erlich Bachman, for no reason whatsoever. She's Erlich, and sometimes she's Erlock, and sometimes she's Earl.
Mm-hmm.
These things progress. It's just there's no explanation for it, but it's just it is what it is. Like.
I get it.
I can't believe these things are not happening as much anymore.
651-989-ROCK. I looked up and got confused. 651-989-ROCK. Weirdest way you got or gave a nickname. Gorman in the morning with Fletcher and Ryder on Minnesota's 92 KQRS. Oh, the Pandora's box that is nicknames. I believe we have someone on the horn who wants to tell us something, Ryder.
Alex from Prescott. What's up, buddy?
Alex, what do you got for us?
Hey, guys. I want to tell you about my buddy Nick's nickname. His nickname is Sliver, which was shortened to Sliv because in wrestling he was sliding up and down on a wooden bench and got a sliver in his butt, and the gym teacher had to pull it out.
That's nice. That's apple pie and baseball. That's as all-American as it gets right there.
100%.
All right. Well, we're thinking of you, Sliver. Thanks for the call. We appreciate that.
Who wants to call him by his real name when you can call him Sliv?
Nobody.
That's the best.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good ones. Hold on. I was born, this is the text. I was born 3 months premature. Needless to say, I wasn't very big. My nickname till I was 10 was Shorthorn. It's just, why not? You know what? You got
my grandpa was a big old farmer, 6'4" probably.
Yeah.
Just work from dusk to dawn.
Mm-hmm.
He was tiny.
Tiny.
You know what I mean? Just that classic like play on, the doing opposites. He was a big dude.
Yeah, that's always the classic. When I was a kid, anytime I saw someone that was very large, I'd say, "Hey, tiny." I mean, it was just something I knew how to do at like 7 years old.
Yeah.
One of our skinniest fans is called Tubby.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Tubby's, I'm sure. You know what? Hey, speak of the devil, here's a text from Tubby. I haven't read it. My cat, Chloe, who I got in 1989 in St. Petersburg, moved back here with me. Fast forward 15 years. She's living large with me in Brooklyn Park. She put on many pounds. I was playing bar trivia downtown. I had to come up with a screen name. I logged in as the nickname I'd given my cat, and the rest is history. That's where it came from.
There we go.
Right on, Tubby. Always a pleasure. I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I see Tubby all the time.
I know.
Yeah, we just constantly pass each other in town. It's amazing.
Must live in similar or run in similar circles.
We move. We do a lot of power walking in the same part of town. That's how it is. We're always like walking right by, like, hey, what's going on, man? All right, so that's going to give us that's a lot of food for thought. This whole nickname thing.
Oh yeah.
In the meantime, right now we're just about out of here. Paul Fletcher, correct me if I'm wrong, but you still have some music to play.
I do. We're gonna get to lunch, and then we'll get you to Jade and fill it with all the jams that you want to hear. It's gonna be great.
That sounds like a plan to me. This is Gorman in the Morning on Minnesota's 92 KQRS.